Okay, welcome back to the book of Genesis. We are going to continue reading the next chapter, which is chapter 17 of Genesis. The sign of the covenant. Here we go, chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. Now I will make my covenant between me and you and will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. Verse 6, I will make you exceedingly fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your descendants after you, in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and to descendants after you. Also I give to you your descendants after you, the land which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. And you shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. And it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or brought with money from any stranger who is not your descendant. He who is born in your house, he who is brought with your money, must be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And for the uncircumcised male child, who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people, and has broken my covenant. Verse 15, Then God said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? Verse 18, And Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Then God said, No, Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you before. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at the set time next year. Verse 22, Then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were brought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin, the very same day as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day Abraham was circumcised, his son Ishmael. Verse 27, and all the men of his house born in the house or brought with money from a stranger were circumcised with him. Wow, there we go, the end of chapter 17. And we saw God establishing his covenant. This is huge. This is so big. This is such a big thing. Hints of this coming chapters before, and now it is here. Abraham. This is the Abrahamic covenant. And often we hear, I know I do, God referred to himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it says right in here, and I'm not sure where it is, right in the very beginning here, that God said that I will establish my covenant with you and your descendants. And that is why we have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The same covenant established with Abraham is also established with Isaac and Jacob. So that's why you constantly hear the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They share the same covenant. And we also see the name change with the covenant. Abraham gets his name changed from Abram to Abraham, and Sarai is now named Sarah. I am not sure why God did that, but it happens at this time when the covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, is established. And we also see God telling Abraham that he will have a son through his wife Sarah, and it must have seemed almost impossible at the time because Abraham is 100 years old and Sarah is 90-some years old. Back in those days, people are still living to be quite old, even though the water canopy that we saw, which made people live really old before the days of Noah, even though that water canopy is no longer there, it's taking some time for the effects of all the bad things that come through our atmosphere and ages so badly. It takes some time, but we'll slowly see as we read the Bible, people live to be shorter and shorter lives until we get to the present day, which is around 70 or so years old. And finally, we see with the Abrahamic covenant, we see circumcision starting to take place. So that is it for chapter 17, an exciting chapter in the book of Genesis. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a great big thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video. God bless. Thanks for watching.